Hi everyone, so in this video we're going to talk about section 1.2, which is domain and range. What the domain of the function is and what the range of the function is. The domain is actually the set of all possible inputs, okay? So in the XY system, the domain will be the X value, okay? Or X value. And the range is actually the all possible output, which is the Y value. Okay, so why we say all possible? Because not all the function will have the domain is all real number. So think about it. Function actually look like a machine, right? So this is your machine or your function f of x, and you have something input to your machine, and it's gonna be come out with output value, right? So if this is what you're gonna input or whatever your machine only accepting A, B, and C, and it's gonna be come out with X, Y, and Z, right? So A, B, and C go into the function f and come out with X, Y, and Z. So it means the machine, this machine is only accept the number, the domain that is A, B, and C. If I have something else outside like D, and I try to put into the machine because it's not in the domain, then it's not going to be come out with an output. Okay, so the machine is only accept A, B, C. Anything else is not acceptable. So which means the domain of this function is only A, B, and C. Okay, so our job for this section is try to find out if I got given a function, what is the domain of that function. Okay, so for example, if I have a function like a fraction, so like this function f of x equal 1 over x minus 3, right? So you can plot in any number to your x and evaluate your f of x, right? You can plot in 1, so f of 1, like f of 1 is going to be 1 over 1 minus 3 and negative 1/2, right? And so on. You can plot in f of 2, you can plot in f of 4, but how about f of 3? If I plot in f of 3, what happened to my output? So if I plot in my f of 3, and I'm gonna have 1 over 3 minus 3. So what is 3 minus 3 is? 3 minus 3 is 0. Oh, it means your output is an undefined value. Okay, note that in mathematics, when you divide a zero number, it's not going to be defined. Okay, any number that divides 0 is undefined. So this is undefined. Okay, so when your input give an undefined output, that number is not in the domain of this function. Okay, so this function can accept any number like 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, negative 1, 2, 3, except this number. So we say 3 is not in the domain of f. Okay, and in the mathematical notation that we want to label our domain is we can use the set builder notation, or we can use the interval notation that we're going to talk about in the next concept. So but for this one, I'm going to say the domain is going to be all real number such that, okay, this is mean x is all real number. They have to be a real number. X is all real number and x cannot equal to 3. So this set builder is telling you that your domain can be anything, just cannot be equal to 3. Okay, and you can also grab this on the number line and write the interval notation like the one below here. So look, these are several introduced about the interval notation or inequality. So the interval notation can be written like this. Sometimes it's just on the right side and sometimes on the left side. If x greater than a, then you have the notation is go from, you look at the number line, start from a, everything above, right? Because the problem just say greater than, So it means it's going to be cut off at A and everything to the right, because it's greater. But you can see the third one, I have X is greater than or equal to A. Okay, so the cutoff is still A, but because it's greater, so it's on the right of your number line. But in this notation, if you notice, the interval notation is actually a bracket. Okay, because of what? Because there's an equal sign. Okay, so if the inequality is just greater than or less than, you're gonna use the parenthesis, but it's have greater than or less than, greater than or equal, less than or equal, you're gonna use the bracket. Okay, and for the infinity notation, is always go with the parenthesis because we don't know what value is that, so we cannot include it. Okay. So let's come back to this problem. So I have the domain written in the set builder notation. We're gonna say this is set builder because it's written in the set builder notation. Let's say I want to write in the interval notation, then how do we do? So if you are first starting using the interval notation, you might not be familiar with it. I would recommend you to draw the number line and use this as a reference. It's gonna be easier. Okay, so I'm gonna draw a number line and put my 3 on it. So I have a number line and my 3 is in the middle. Okay, I'm gonna use an open circle for my 3 because the number 3 is not included. Everything include except the 3. So 3 is not in there. So everything include is mean everything on the right of the 3 will be the domain, and everything on the left of the 3 will be the domain except 3. So read it from that. I'm gonna have 3 as a cutoff because it's an open circle. So I have a parenthesis. Okay. On the left side, because a left side is have to contain a negative value, so it's gonna be start with negative infinity, 2, 3. Okay, and again, I'm not using the bracket. Instead, I go using the parenthesis because 3 is not included. Okay, and I use a U to connect the 2 interval because I have 1 interval here and 1 interval here. So it's gonna be 3 to infinity. The right side is gonna be 3 to infinity. You always have to reading the lowest number and then the highest number. Lowest and then highest. There are no highest here because infinity, you don't know what is the max. Okay. Now we're gonna do a little bit more example about how do we find the domain and range. First of all, we're gonna look at the visual line on the graph first, and then we're gonna look at the a function and then find the domain. So I have 3 different graphs right here, and I want to find the domain of these 3 graphs. Okay, so for this one, the first one, domain is all what a domain is. Domain is a set of all possible input X value. So it means all possible X value. What does possible mean? It means when I have an input, I can come out with an output. Okay. So let me ask you, if I put my X value is at -4, do I have an output value for the -4? It means do I have a Y value for -4? I don't know. Let's check. If I map from -4 and going up here, did I touching my graph at all? The curve is start from here and go back to here. Okay. So when at -4, I draw a line, a vertical line up here, I don't touching my graph at all. Okay, so -4 is not the possible value for the graph. So because it doesn't have a possible output. Also -5 as well. I don't have anything for -5, -6, or even -3.5. No. But what about if I do -3? What happens if I add -3? Okay, if I add -3, I draw a line, the vertical line, just to testing to see I'm correct or not. Oh, I don't have the possible output here because it's an open circle. So I cannot say f of -3 is 15 because it's an open dot. Okay. However, I do touch the starting point right there. okay, the cutoff. So it means from -3, I will have the domain, okay? So I will erase this to make it more clearly. So it looks like from -3, and what else? Where my endpoint? My endpoint is right here. So I suggest that the best thing to find the domain and range is look at the endpoint. Okay, so start from the endpoint and draw a vertical line down to the X value, and that's gonna be your interval. Okay, and I have the second endpoint right here. I'm gonna draw a line down here, and it's why this is the 4. Okay, so start from -3 to 4, I will have the domain, because within this domain, I will have the graph. Okay, so I can say domain will be -3 and 4. Notice that at the point -3, I use the parenthesis because there's an open circle right here. Okay, at 4, I use bracket because this is a closed circle, so I use bracket. Okay. And that is the domain. Now let's look at the range. The range, I also will look at the endpoint. The highest endpoint is 15, not 16. The highest endpoint right here is 15. Where is my lowest Y value? The lowest Y value, not this one, because you have so many down here. Okay, not this one. My lowest Y value is -1 right here. So from here. This gonna be my range, and my range start from where to where. So remember, whenever you read the interval notation, you always want to go to the from low to high, right? The lowest value is -1, and the highest value is 15 for your range. So I'm gonna have -1 and 15. Okay, I put the open parenthesis. So again, I use the bracket for my -1 because there's a curve right here, okay? It doesn't indicate there's an open circle, so it's gonna be included. You ultimately know that it's gonna be included. But 15, because there's an open circle, so that's why I use parentheses, okay? So this is the first one. Now let's look at the second one. On the second one, if I look from left to right, right? Do I have the endpoint? The arrow indicate that this graph will be keep going on and 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 on. Okay, so even I have 4, I can still get some value. I get at 5, I still get some value because the graph will keep going. Okay, so when you on the left and right is an arrow. Okay, left and right is an arrow on your curve. The domain will be all real number, -infinity to infinity, because it include everything. Okay, you don't have the endpoint. It's not like the one on the left. I have an endpoint. Okay, start from here to here. I have an endpoint, but this one I cannot draw a box like that because this one will keep going. I cannot say I draw a box like this and this will be my domain. That is wrong, because this say this gonna be keep going. So I couldn't draw a line like this. Then the domain will be all real number. Okay, how about the range? So same thing, I cannot draw a line like here. Okay, the highest point, I can't, because this indicate the graph gonna be keep going. Okay, so then no highest point on the graph, on the curve, no highest. But do I have the lowest? Yes, I can actually draw a horizontal line like this, and the lowest point is start from what? Y equals 0. Okay, so from 0 to infinity will be your range. And I have to use a bracket because it doesn't indicate there's an open circle right there. So it's a bracket, okay? Similarly, for the last one, what is my domain? Okay, so on the last one, look like, yes, on the left and right, you see an arrow instead of an endpoint. So the domain will be all real number for the domain. And when you look up and down, yes, the lowest value that the graph hit is actually -2, right? The graph is from here to here. So from -2, the range is from -2 to 2. Okay, from here, start from here to here. You're gonna have the graph in within that. So that is the range. Okay, so this is how you look at the graph and tell whether the domain is in the interval notation.